to talk about supplies that you're going to need if you're DIYing your wedding flowers or if you're a florist in general. These are the essential supplies that you're going to need. So what I'm going to start off with first is the flower prep. So when you get DIY flowers, they're going to come to you just in a box, and that box is exactly what a florist would get. So none of them are processed or anything. They're just all wrapped in plastic. So you're going to need to process them yourself. So the first thing that you're going to want to have before the flowers even arrive is buckets. So I've got a bucket here. This is a great one that I get from my wholesaler, but if you don't have access to this one, somebody did blue here for their vibe, spray painted on. If you don't have access to buckets like this, the dollar store is a really great spot to buy them. So I would just buy bathroom trash cans, and those are great for putting your flowers in. You'll probably need about 1 bucket for every 3 bunches of flowers ish. So you're gonna need quite a bit of buckets when you're DIYing your own wedding flowers. So I've got my buckets here, and these are great for just kind of the general flowers, like something like these mums are perfect to stick in there. Because if you see, if you put them in here, they are kind of a nice height, versus if you were to put them in something really short, this isn't a good example, but say like this, they are just gonna like tip over and fall. A mason jar is really great to use, but if you have these taller ones, they definitely need a bucket that's tall like this. So I've got these here for my bucket, and then in terms of what I'm gonna do once I get the flowers, I'm gonna need to cut the ends, because when flowers are shipped, they're dry shipped, so that means they come just in a box, and then the ends have sort of sealed over. So you're gonna need to give them a fresh cut in order to reactivate the bottom. Sorry, not reactivate, cut off the part that's sealed over, and then that allows the flowers to drink again. And this is the most important part of your flower prep, is cutting the ends with your pruners, not your scissors. I've got a pair of pruners here. You can just get these at a hardware store or florist, and then you're just going to cut them at a 45-degree angle. You're going to not use scissors, because if you use scissors, that actually crushes the stems, and then they can't uptake the water as well. Hello to the folks that are just joining. Sarah, you Floral here. I'm talking to you guys about the essential supplies that you need when you're DIYing your flowers. So I just covered that we need some buckets, dollar store, great spot to get them, and that we're using our pruners to cut the ends of our flowers. So in terms of other supplies that I use when I'm prepping, I've got these ribbon scissors here. These are great when you're actually cutting ribbon, but I don't use them for anything else, just because I want to preserve the integrity of them. So we covered already what we need in order to process the flowers. So I've just got my buckets and my pruners. So then, oh, I forgot to tell you guys, this is a great bucket to use. So this is just from I store my pasta, and this is a nice height to put your flowers in. I would use these for the more delicate flowers. So I put, like, ranunculus is a really delicate flower, so I put it alone in its own container, just so it doesn't get squished or smushed by other flowers. So you can use a pasta container just from the dollar store. It's fantastic. So now we've got our flower stuff that we need for prepping. Let's talk about foam. So in order to have your flowers hydrated, especially if you're doing something like an arch, you need a way for those flowers to be hydrated when they're outside, or else they'll start to wilt. So an option that you can use is floral foam. So this foam here is already in its own cage, and this is what the foam looks like without a cage. And then here's a cage that you can just stick it inside. There's another couple options here. This one is kind of on a stick, and here's a smaller version of a stick. And so the reason to use these floral foam is so that your flowers have hydration throughout the wedding event, and so they don't dry out. I have another option here I'm going to show you. So some people like using chicken wire. So this here is what chicken wire looks like. The challenge with chicken wire is that it doesn't have a hydration source. So what's really great, since it has this grid to it, it will hold your flowers in place when you're making an arrangement, but then it doesn't have a hydration source. So sometimes folks will use moss, or another option is these little guys here. So this is just a little pick. You fill it full of water, and then you can put your more delicate flowers that have a tendency to wilt in these little tubes and then insert them into the chicken wire. Although you can obviously tell these aren't very big, so you'd have to do this like right close to your event in order to make sure that they have enough water. And then that's very time consuming to like put all these into picks. But that is an option if you're using chicken wire, is to use moss as a hydration source or water picks. So it covers foam, and the foam needs to be soaked in water. So when you are soaking it in the water, you're going to just put the container of foam just in the bucket of water or your sink, and then just let it sink in and uptake the water by itself. You're not gonna like force it down, just set it there and let it soak up. The reason I like having my foam in a cage like this, or like a DIY cage, is because when you're putting it on an arch, because it's foam, it needs to be attached somehow. And if you like take a string and like wrap it around it, it'll just cut through this foam. So you need something to actually hold it in place, so that way you can then attach it to whatever you're using, like an arch or a floral sign or what have you. Zap straps are my best friend when I am doing a flower arrangement using these cages. So I take my zap strap. I don't know if you guys have heard these before. They're also known as cable ties. And so you just insert one end through the other. I'm not going to do that because then I'll have to throw this away. But you put one in through the other, and then you just pull it. Oh, I pulled it too far. Oh, there you go. And then it forms a really nice sturdy attachment. And this is how I would attach this cage here. So I'm just gonna put it through the hole, and then I'm gonna put that onto the arch, and that's how I attach my arch foam. I also like using these here to tie bouquets together, because they're awesome, and they just zip through and then they don't come apart. Okay, covered foam for everybody so far. I've covered zap straps, which are great for attaching your bouquets together or putting your arch on, or sorry, the foam onto your arch. Let's talk now about ribbon. I've got a couple different types of ribbon there. As you can imagine, oodles of different ribbons that you can use when you're making your bouquet. This one here is like super bougie ribbon. This is like some Japanese silk thing. It's hand dyed, very expensive, but it's gorgeous to use in a bouquet. Has lots of great movement, so this is awesome if you have an outdoor wedding. Then this is a less bougie version. There's ones that have wire already within them, so that's another option for ribbon. So when I'm using my zap strap on my bridal bouquets, I'll like zap strap it with one of these, which is obviously ugly, and then I'll take this ribbon and wrap it around the zap strap so you don't see that. Let's talk next about, what do I have here? Corsages. I've got two options here I wanted to show you guys for corsages. So this is a slap wristlet. So you, whoa, not that way. My God, it flew. Anyways, you put this on your wrist, and then you put the corsage on top of it. So this is one option, a slap wristlet. It slaps very aggressively, that you can use for making your corsages. This one here is a really cheap version that you would then put the flowers on top here for your corsage. There's lots of options. There's lots of options of everything, but these are two here. Boutonnieres. Let's talk about supplies you need for boutonnieres. So these here are called boot sticks. So they are magnetic. So when you're making your boutonniere, you attach it to this side of the boot stick, and then you put one side on your suit and the other, and they just clip together like that. So these are awesome because then you don't have pins in your boutonniere that put holes in your suit, and they're also easier to work with because you have a really nice firm surface in order to make your bouquet against. If you're not using those, you could also have in your floral kit a pin. So these pins here just have a nice pretty pearl head, and so then that's what you would attach your boutonniere onto your suit with. So on the topic of boutonnieres, we're gonna need tape in order to make the boutonnieres. Two colors of tape here. So these are both floral tapes, and they're not sticky until we pull them. So let me show you guys. See, they have that give. Then if you keep pulling, they break. So this is the tape that you're gonna need in order to make your boutonniere. I'll show you again. So you pull it and it rips. And so when you're making your boutonniere, you're just wrapping it around the flowers. You have to pull it as you go in order to activate the glue, but you'll 100% need this if you're making your own boutonnieres. What else do I have here? Oh, this is fun. So this is a floral frog. It has like all these little spikes in it. These are awesome if you're making like a meadow style bouquet. So you hold the flower frog, and then the flower just easily like sticks inside of it, and then it stands upright. This is probably gonna tip because it's way too top heavy. So you would have to put like a glue dot on the bottom to hold it in place. But this makes like a really pretty like ikebana style or a meadow style. And these are called floral frogs. They come in all different sizes. This is a super tiny one, but you can get a bigger one, then you put a whole bunch of flowers within them. Okay, what else do I have here? Oh, I'm gonna show you guys what I have for potions. So this here is finishing touch. This is a hydration spray. So it essentially works by locking in the moisture into the flowers, and so then they stay lasting longer. So this I really lean into when I'm doing arches, like in the summertime when it's really, really hot. I use this even though the flowers have the hydration that I would use by putting the flowers into a sort of foam cage like this one that has water in it. But I would also use like a hydration spray like this. I see somebody has a question. What is the question? I am new to doing these lives, so this is kind of new to me. What am I doing? I am showing you guys the essential supplies that you need when you are DIYing your flowers, or if you're a florist trying to just start out, the supplies that you are going to need. So finishing touch is a spray. The other thing that I like using, again, if I'm doing a wedding that is going to be in the summertime and it's going to be really hot, is this is called Quick Dip. So I have a video on how to use Quick Dip, and I can do a live sometime if you guys want to know. Is Quick Dip, I just put it into a little container of water, and as the name suggests, you just take the flower stems and you quick dip them into this solution, and that helps them use water better and more efficiently so they last longer. I see the question now. Dino is asking, I'll grow all types of plants. So I don't actually grow all sorts of plants. I am a DIY florist, so I teach people how to do their own flower arrangements, and I sell bulk flowers, so the flowers come directly to your house, and then you can DIY your own flower arrangements for your wedding or your event or whatever you're looking to do. So I just provide education. What else do I have here to show you? Oh, I have this here. This is a Lazy Susan. It's not very, this isn't a fancy one. It's just, I got picked up at the thrift store. But what it's great about is it spins. So if I have my arrangement that I'm working with, I can just easily spin it around so I can see the arrangement from all sides and take a look and make sure that it looks good from all sides. This is just a cheap little container that I use for making wedding centerpieces. So I just take if I was using this, I would just take my foam, obviously I need to cut it to size, and then I would stick it in this vase, and then I have the foam provides hydration, but most importantly what it does inside this vessel is provide like a structure. So when I put the flowers in, they stay within where I actually want them to go. You can also use chicken wire if you're doing that, that route instead. If you are going kind of the chicken route and you're using a vessel like this, here's two other types of tape. These are both floral tapes and they're waterproof. And so these I use, say I put the foam or the chicken wire in here, I would put the chicken wire in, and then I take this tape and I put it over top just to make sure that the chicken wire doesn't move around, because it has a tendency to move in place just because it's wire. So that's where I would use these two types of waterproof tapes. There's just one is water and the other is green versus clear, but either one would do the trick. I'm getting to the end of the things I have to show you guys, but here's another thing I have. So this is a container that I put my floral foam in. So you can really use any sort of vessel that you like to put your floral foam in when you're doing your arrangement, but it is important that you have a container, because when you take this foam and you soak it, you're just gonna put it into a bucket of water and then, or your sink, and just let it slowly sink in. But when you pick it up, you'll see that it drips a lot, and so you can't just set this foam like on your table. But if you put it in a little vessel like this, then the water doesn't go anywhere and it just stays in place. And then when you're decorating with your flowers, you can have your flowers sort of draping over top so you don't see this vessel. That's why I like having these like short ones, because then I can use these to create like a meadow look, or these can be a really beautiful centerpiece. So I think that I've now shown you everything that I have. Oh, I forgot this. This here is glue, Florist glue. So I use this when I'm making my corsage. So for a corsage, I need like a base first of all. So here's like just a cheap base, and here's a slaplet base. And so I'm going to glue the flowers actually onto these, and you need a floral glue. So you don't want to use something like a hot glue gun, because then that will like zap the flowers and then they're pooched. So you need a cold glue like this in order to attach flowers to your base. It won't work with other type of glues. You really need to have this good Florist glue. So I think I actually showed you guys everything now I have in my kit. Does anybody have any questions about why you would use these different supplies when you're doing a flower arrangement? Happy to answer any questions. If you have more questions that come up that I didn't cover here, you can just leave me a comment and then I'll make sure and get to those. Thanks everybody for watching my second live.